Alright, my name is Mina, and I will be doing my refutation speech today in response to the steroids era of baseball deserves a place in the Hall of Fame by my opponent Michael O'Donovan. And my opponent's secondary claims are the absolute best players should be in the Hall of Fame. Second is players that have used steroids should be permitted to be in the Hall of Fame by having an asterisk next to their name. And the third and last one is including players that have used steroids would be a completion of baseball history. Now moving to our first claim, he stated that the absolute best player should be in the Hall of Fame. So after doing some research, I came across an interview that was conducted with one of the players named Ken Community. He came forward about his steroid use and detailed the damage that the drug has done to his body. And Ken admitted that his body had mostly stopped producing testosterone and that his testicles have gotten much smaller. As a matter of fact, his body only had 20% of the normal level testosterone. And although Ken clearly knew the damage it did to his body, he still confessed that he would have done it all over again if he had another chance. Ken eventually died as a result of his steroid use. Many times in various written articles and on television shows, sport analysts defend their assertion that players do not deserve their place in the Hall of Fame because it's not the Hall of Very Good, it's the Hall of Fame. And steroids are taken in cycles, generally ranging from roughly 3 weeks to 6 months, with other exceptions on time periods. This means that for a person to take steroid once, they had to be completely aware in making a decision to cheat the game on numerous occasions. Also, it wouldn't be fair for players who've been in the league for the same time and maybe longer trying to get their names on the Hall of Fame and can't do so because some players cheat their way in. And moving on to my opponent's second claim, which is players should have their own section in the Hall of Fame. The truth of the matter is steroids greatly alter the competitive balance of baseball and all other sports. There is no fairness or equality when one baseball player uses steroids and other players don't. Entry into the Hall of Fame should be a deserved reward and not a reward for those who cheat the system. What example would rewarding steroids used to the baseball players to be for our children? Children who deem these baseball players heroes. Baseball should be kept clean like any other sport should. And my opponent's final and third claim is including players that have used steroids will complete the baseball history. These players will be remembered regardless, but to put them in the Hall of Fame is to say that they are among the best of the best. A husband who cheats on his wife still cheated. A student who cheated on their SATs to gain an entry into a prestige Ivy League university still cheated. Why should they be given an entry or have their crime overlooked? Good moral characteristics should be the top of the criteria list for those who wish to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. How can one teach the younger generation to abide by the rules if the use of steroids is condoned? Using steroids gives those with no integrity an unfair advantage over those who play by the rules. Thank you.
All right, the structural issues are laid out pretty well. On the first point, you've got a nice counterexample about the one guy who damaged his body, had tiny testicles, and then died because he was using the steroids. I'm not exactly sure that that's a ringing endorsement for sticking somebody in the Hall of Fame, especially if we have to show pictures of their tiny testicles. You know, When you get to the argument about it being not the hall of the very good, or the issue of whether or not allowing people in who cheat is a good or a bad idea, you're on the brink of a value argument. And I think maybe that was part of the problem with the advocate's claim, is that there's a lot of value argument that's built into it. What you need to do is focus on the factual issues related to that. For instance, do the rules preclude people from using the steroids? Yes, they preclude people from using the steroids, so they have violated those particular rules. How does baseball deal with the violation of their particular rules? Well, they do a whole variety of things. Two famous examples of violation of the rules are banning people from the Hall of Fame that they haven't allowed in. So they're simply being consistent in the application of the rules that they have to keep people who are cheating from being in the Hall of Fame under that particular standard. And you could argue, and then I think your follow-up argument that you kind of hint at but need to make a little bit stronger is, if we were to allow people who cheat into the Hall of Fame, it makes the Hall of Fame it encourages cheating, in essence, and it tells people that there's an incentive for doing this because there is no negative consequence for cheating in this particular case, and that we would then get that imbalance that you're talking about. I think you could also talk about what the imbalance between the players is going to mean to the game in the long run, not just to the Hall of Fame. But I like the idea that you're dealing with this. I think you've got good analysis on this. I think you need a little bit more evidence on some of the points, and you need to respond to some of the evidence that the advocate used on those points also. If the advocate didn't use evidence, you need to point that out, and if they used evidence that you thought was inadequate, then you ought to tell us why it's inadequate and why your example is a better comparison. All right. Thank you.